Go on home, Jake.
All I did was kiss the girl.
Thought you said in Turley. Remember how that ended?
What's the matter, Peyton? You afraid I couldn't get those two behind me?
We're talking Costner, tin cup to Silverado, talking Costner, Bodyguard and Fandango, Robin Hood is making the rich pay, going off the board on draft day, talking Swingo, Wyatt Earp and JFK. Okay.
All right.
The worst. The best is that that's not fake energy with you. That is your real energy.
I'm excited to be here with you, Adam.
I am excited to do what will be the first of many trips to the Old West.
That's true. That's true.
In this podcast. How's it going, Cam?
It's going good. It's kind of a snow day today. It's snowy. It's Friday night.
The snowing is blowing.
The snowing is blowing. This is what people come for.
It's the banter.
No, well, they come for the Costner. They stay for the rhyming repartee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What have you been watching lately, Cam?
What have I been watching lately?
Aside from Kevin.
You know what? It's not beside from Kevin. I just started watching Yellowstone.
Oh, you're going deep into our 7th, 8th season. You're getting ready.
I'm not going to lie too. Also, on Valentine's Day, I made a list of rom-coms to watch, and rumor has it, starring Jennifer Aniston and Kevin Costner, made the list.
Oh, beauty. I would have thought maybe Tin Cup was in there.
No, we watched that earlier in the pandemic. And I was so excited when I was like, what about Tin Cup? Hallie hadn't seen it. And I was like, really? We can watch it? Really? And she loved it because it's a great movie.
It is.
It is a great movie.
We'll get there.
But yeah, I just started Yellowstone. It's pretty good. There's like, I'm testing the uneasy waters right now. He is really good in it. I don't know if I love it. I don't know if I love everyone. Some of the writing is a little heavy-handed so far. It's Taylor Sheridan. Do you know him? He wrote like Sicario. Yeah.
Hell or High Water too.
Hell or High Water, yep. Wind River. Yeah, it's just it's good. It's like Succession, but with Montana ranchers, which is good.
That's a good combo.
And Kevin Costner plays a role I haven't really seen him in yet, where he's kind of like that evil Brian Cox, rich asshole patriarch. But he's also got the
love it.
I'm a salt of the earth guy, but he's also owns just half of Montana. So.
Yeah. There are very few instances where we're going to have Kevin Costner as a villain. So
yeah, he's not quite the villain, but he's like that, prestige
antagonistic presence.
Well, no, I'd say he's still, a little bit antagonistic because, his son, it's, battle between him and his youngest son and the whole family, blah, 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 blah. But he's definitely has that kind of, prestige TV anti-hero, He's kind of a dick, but you understand why.
Well, I'm excited to get to it in 4 years when we get there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's more Costner to take in before that. What have you been watching?
I've been watching the WandaVision. I feel like I'm along with most of the world there. I've been loving that. And one of my headphone ears just came off, which it was taped on to begin with. Oh my gosh. But that was just, it's a good thing that we're not a video podcast because that would just look so.
We got the earphones for radio, baby.
Yeah, we do. That was hilarious. Yeah, I've been watching WandaVision, loving that. But then I also watched last night. I watched Step Brothers for the second time in 2 months, and of course, little connection. Lo and behold, Richard Jenkins. I think this is his first film role, Silverado, and so I had some connections there, some Richard Jenkins content.
Not gonna lie, Richard Jenkins also in Rumor Has It.
There you go.
Starring Jennifer Aniston.
Well, there
Kevin
you go.
Costner, so.
Well, man, so we're just having you and I are both having a
Jenkins-filled week. Now.
That's, again, we'll do that for the Patreon. We'll do some Jenkins talk-alongs. Yeah, that's been my week. I've been doing a lot of work, so I've been watching as much movies. A lot of that WandaVision, and then watching WandaVision Easter egg and theory videos. So that's been me.
Wicked. I want to give a quick shout out to everybody who's listened to the Fandango episode, getting great feedback on that hidden gem of a movie. I also wanted to shout out a little correction. And this is something I hope keeps happening.
Yeah,
because
we have an official fact checker to be trusted much more than us.
Yeah, all to the Costner universe out there. We don't know shit. We're just reading the internet and then talking about Kevin Costner.
Not everyone could Google the Wikipedia for these movies, Cam. Not everyone could IMDb the trivia page for these movies. We're doing the dirty work that
we're
you listeners
in there.
Don't want to do.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Don't sell ourselves short here. But yes, there are some people who know a little deeper than us.
And big shout out to the Instagram Kevin Costner fan page.
At Kevin Costner-rific. I got it wrong the first time. I'm an idiot.
He's been great. He's been writing us, and we're going to get on a Zoom call with him.
The Italian Kevin Costner fan page.
That's right.
Very specific niche.
He really liked the episode, but he wanted to dispel the rumor, the falsehood that Spielberg did not like the movie.
Okay, well.
Apparently.
This guy's got real inside info. So
apparently it had much more to do with just frayed working relationships at Warner, and I can't remember the other movie house, but
Amblin?
That not his, between Universal and him. So that was more the factor rather than not liking the film.
All right.
I also want to give a shout out for everybody who's just discovering this movie right now. There is a documentary on this movie coming out. It's called The Ultimate Fandango. You can go to their website. It's www.ultimatefandango.com, and their Instagram page is at The Ultimate Fandango. They've got a lot of like cool backstage stuff, a lot of cool interviews, a lot of like production shots. Check it out. I loved that movie.
And these facts are coming from. This guy is working on.
Yeah, that guy is working on.
So this isn't just somebody going, "Oh no, he wasn't." Like, this guy actually knows way more than we do. When
I tried to apologize for spreading falsehoods among all around the internet, he said, "No. Until I worked on this documentary, I didn't know that."
That was the tale. Well, then because we kind of landed on, like, that was sort of one of our big takeaways. We're like, Spielberg torpedoed this movie. So nothing like starting the next episode by going, maybe don't listen to our last episode. We don't know what we're talking about.
But here we are on Silverado.
There we go. Saddle up your horse and let's ride.
Let's ride, baby. A misfit bunch of friends come together to right the injustices which exist in a small town. What's that small town called? Silverado.
The Chevy Silverado.
All right. So, 1985 Silverado, directed by Lawrence Kasdan, written by Lawrence and Mark Kasdan. I bet they're brothers.
Or father and son.
No, they're brothers. It stars Kevin Kline. You'll know him from The Big Chill, Sophie's Choice. Scott Glenn, Urban Cowboy, The Right Stuff.
Fish Called Wanda.
The Silence of the Lambs. Danny Glover.
Wait, Kevin Kline is in The Silence of the Lambs?
No. Scott Glenn is in Silence of the Lambs.
That was all over the place here.
I had moved on to Scott Glenn. I was like, I'm just going to ignore the fact that
I don't remember Kevin Kline in that movie at all.
Scott Glenn is also not in A Fish Called Wanda, but Kevin Kline is.
My apologies.
Danny Glover. Danny Glover's a guy that like has just been around my whole life, so I just assume he always existed. But it's kind of interesting to look back, like, oh no, he wasn't undiscovered. But this year he did Witness, The Color Purple, and Silverado. So that was a pretty big breakout year for him. Yeah. This is obviously before all the Lethal Weapons, but it's by Lethal Weapon he's he's too old for this shit.
Exactly. So he's not a young guy anymore. He's not young Hal who's run off. Young Mal who's run off to find life outside the farm.
That's right. And Kevin Costner's in this.
He is. Good thing. Otherwise,
what would we be talking about?
Otherwise, we done messed up, didn't we?
Wait a second. He's not in this movie at all. We got Brian Dennehy from First Blood and Tommy Boy, and just all around great actor.
Just incredible.
Linda Hunt, who's coming off an Oscar the year before for The Year of Living Dangerously. Did you know that Linda Hunt won an Oscar
for Silence of the Lambs?
No. For The Year of Living Dangerously, where she played a Chinese male little person.
And that's what she won the Oscar for.
That's what she won the Oscar for.
I think I knew that she won the Oscar, but I don't think, since I've never seen that movie, I didn't know that.
Billy Kwan.
Okay.
I've never seen it, but I have seen pictures, and it is pretty wild.
Yeah, and I mean, she is obviously an incredibly short woman, but not a little person. And
not a little person.
Not Chinese, and not a man, as far as I know.
No. So that's something to know about Linda Hunt.
Well, there we go.
And she was just coming off that Oscar. She had won it in 84. Well, 85, but for the year 84. And then
most people will recognize her voice and kind of her look from The Incredibles.
And Pocahontas. She's like the old tree voice.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then John Cleese and Jeff Goldblum are also in this movie, amongst a bunch of other people that have cameos.
This cast is stacked, honestly.
It is stacked. Yeah, it seemed everybody wanted to get in this movie.
You know who else is in this movie?
No.
To give us a connection back to Fandango.
Marvin J.
McIntyre is back in this movie. Star, of course, of Fandango, the pilot, and also has another Old West connection. He is in. He's the mortician in Back to the Future Part 3. And you know what else? He plays a farmer in Chud 2, Bud the Chud.
You know what? You stumped me on that last one.
I really did. Know. Well, unlike you, I have IMDb pulled up here. I don't have to wait like 8 seconds of dead air to Google something. It's 4letters.com.
Hey, I'm new to this podcasting thing. I'm going to be new to this podcasting thing by the time we get to Yellowstone.
It's my first day.
It's my first day. I'm new here. All right.
Yeah.
So going to break down some stats on this movie. So it was filmed between November 84 and March 85. So it had a pretty quick turnaround because it was released July 10th, 1985. It had a budget of $23 million, an opening weekend of $3.5 million, and a worldwide gross of $32.2 million. It's got a 7.2 on IMDb, a 76% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, 80% audience, and a 64 on Metacritic. And it was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, Best Score and Best Sound.
Mm-hmm. And as I was writing in my notes early on, how good the score is, which we can talk about as we go through. But I just completely assumed it was John Williams because it just sounds so John Williams, but it is, in fact, not John Williams.
And of course, like Kasdan kind of has like big connection to that world, having written Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Exactly. But this is Bruce Broughton who did this score. And I can't say I know anything else from Bruce Broughton. And I don't know why, because this is just an excellent score.
Yeah. Big time. All right. So let's break down point by point, scene by scene, this film.
And there's a lot just to say right off the bat. There's a lot going on in this film.
A lot going on in this movie.
This is a film that, like, every subplot could just be the movie. It could be its own movie. Each character. I mean, I think we'll talk, like, I like the ensemble aspect of this, and it's very, like, very Magnificent Seven, and but every plot is like its own whole story that I think about this and I'm like, if this movie was to be remade, I actually would prefer it as like a mini series.
That's what I thought exactly. Like, this movie should have been not even like a 4-part limited series. It probably should have been a full 8 to 10 episode season of television.
Yeah. Which, of course, that wasn't really a thing back in 1985.
No, but not long after this, rather. In the late 80s, there's a really great Western called Lonesome Dove, starring Robert Duvall and Danny Glover and Tommy Lee Jones. And it is very good. And it is, I think it's 4, 1 hour and a half long episodes. So not long after that did become a thing.
And having said that, I actually don't feel like this movie is too long, and I don't feel like it drags.
That's the problem with it. I think there's
just I could do a whole. I want 3 hours of content just learning about Mal's life and stuff. So So anyway, well, let's get into it, and we'll teach you all who this Mal is. Who is Emmett? Who is Jake? Who are these people you're talking about? You haven't explained a goddamn thing yet. So why don't you get into the movie, Adam and Cam? So we begin. First of all, and I came in this knowing nothing about Silverado. I actually, especially for a lot of these movies that I haven't seen, I'm not looking up much before at all. So I was delighted to see Scott Glenn in this because Scott Glenn, I think, is one of the great underrated actors.
He is
of
really
the past
good.
30 years. He's so good. I'm a huge fan of the HBO show The Leftovers. That he is on.
Fantastic in that.
He is incredible in that, and I'm just so used to seeing as kind of an old man. It was crazy to see him as sort of young man Scott Glenn here.
Well, I feel like he usually plays he's always just a guy in the background who just looks like he could be an army commander or looks like he could really be an FBI agent. Yep. You know what I mean? Where he's
got that severe but business first look.
Yeah, that's just that's a real guy. I don't think I've seen him in anything where he had to carry as much as in this movie, but I haven't seen, I guess, his big hits from the 80s. But
this is the first I've seen where he's, a lead, a true.
But what does he play? Let's talk about him in this movie.
Could you get to the movie? Could you explain to us, this is the audience, what we're watching here? Okay, so we're watching a Western, guys. Everybody just calm down. So we begin in a lonesome shack, much like there's a lot of deserts as we go through these Costner movies. We're beginning in a lonesome shack, kind of in the desert in the West, and Emmett, who is the name of Scott Glenn's character, is kind of ambushed. He's attacked by some bandits, robbers, hitmen.
We don't know who.
Well, we don't know who, but they're killers. I'll tell you that. We know that they're killers because they sure are trying to kill. So they jump him. And he is super quick on the draw. He clearly knows what he's doing with a rifle. And he is able to kill, I think, 1 or 2 of them, and scare the other ones off, leaving behind a horse that we notice has a very specific brand, sort of 2 diamonds on its rear end.
Don't forget that brand. It might come back later.
And don't forget that brand because it don't stop there. And then, so he's able to get out of the situation. He's got a horse now, so he hits the dusty trail on his horse, and he finds Kevin Kline left basically for dead. He's clearly been robbed. His clothes. He's in that Old West onesie with the butt flap.
Yeah.
And we find out that Kevin Kline's name is Peyton, and he nurses him back to health. Sort of a Good Samaritan situation.
Nice thing to do when you find a guy down on his luck. Nurse him back to health.
I mean, right away, I'm like, I like this guy. I like this Emmett guy. And I like this Kevin Kline guy who's very cordial to him as he rouses him back to health. So they end up going out journeying to a town or kind of an army outpost where Peyton finds, as they enter the town, that one of the men who robbed him is right there, and he's on Peyton's horse.
That
so
son of a bitch.
He's right by the gun store, and goes in, throws a coin down, says, "I'm buying this gun." The guy says, "That gun's $20. You don't got, that's just 1 coin."
That guy played by Marvin J. McIntyre.
Played by Marvin J. McIntyre, yeah, who would go on later to pilot parachute school. So he can't buy the gun he wants. He gets the shabby gun that the I don't know what you call it, the holster, the spinny bullet thing. is like
Chamber.
Chamber.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
gun.
sure. Chamber. Let's say Chamber. We'll have our when we have 1 million listeners, we'll have our gun nuts correct us.
Hey, if you're a gun nut on listening to this, hit us up on Twitter.
Yeah.
Hit us up on Instagram.
Tell us we're wrong by engaging with us on social media. And so he's able to get this crappy gun and get it to work. He shoots the guy down, gets his horse back, and in the midst of it, we find his old buddy. His buddy's Cobb, played by the incredible Brian Dennehy, and Tyree. They vouch for him because he shot this guy, and the whole town's like, "Well, are you under arrest?" And all you have to do
that.
You can't. But except what we learned is that you can. You actually totally can.
Sometimes you can.
You can. Yeah, you can if you're. As we learned in this movie, pretty much you can if you're white. So they vouch for him, and they invite him to join them on a new job apparently that Cobb has. Which Cobb, who is clearly a shady figure, but he claims this new job is legitimate.
I don't trust him.
I don't trust him. And maybe that's just because we're coming off First Blood here, and the fact that this is like Old West version of the Chief from First Blood. But Peyton declines, and maybe we'll just stop there and say, what do you think so far of this intro, Cam?
I like it. I don't know who to follow yet. There isn't a lot of like character setup of what's going on, who I'm supposed to follow or care about.
Yeah.
It kind of switches. The main character kind of switches to Peyton, and Emmett just kind of drifts into the background for, I think, the rest of this movie, pretty much.
One could say that. I think there's definitely, obviously that opening scene where he's in the shack is meant to, just leave you with a lot of questions, which I think a good opening.
I do love though the homage shot, that like opening up that Western, going from that shack and then like through the door up onto the is like straight into the Searchers. John Ford just we're going into the wilderness. We're in this cramped thing, but we're gonna go out and we're gonna conquer. It's great. There's a little bit of like, it's trying really hard to be and shot and look like a classic Western, and it does a really good job. But every once in a while, there's just this like 80s slapsticky thing, mostly from Kevin Kline, who's very physical and good at that stuff. He's was a theater guy. And off the top, there's, like the gunshot when he's having the shootout with the guy who stole his horse. Like it goes through the crotch of his PJs or his underwear.
As I saw, so it goes through, like, they have a shot where it's behind, like out of, like, just below his butt, the bullet hole comes out, but then it goes back to the front, and I didn't see a bullet hole in the crotch. So, like, how did that work? Because the bullet seems to pass just through the back. So we got a magic bullet situation here.
But he does kind of the like, oh, I'm going to tip my hat. Oh, I forgot I'm not wearing a hat. Oh, I'm going to grab my gun. Oh, I forgot I'm not wearing a gun. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I guess like Jimmy Stewart could get away with that type of stuff in his Westerns, but it just didn't ring. I didn't quite know if they were in the pocket of the genre yet. Yeah, and I think part of it is like, maybe I don't want to go so far as to say is Kevin Kline maybe like a little miscast, because I do like him in this movie a lot, and I generally enjoy Kevin Kline, but it's clear that there's these moments and these lines in this movie with Peyton where you think like they were going for like young, cool, gritty, like action star, but Kevin Kline's bringing his Kevin Kline isms to the role, which kind of actually it sort of feels like contradictory to the young, cool, gritty like gunslinger. So there's a little bit of dissonance there, I think, in the performance. They do set up the two villains off the top like pretty well and make you like, I mean, Brian Dennehy is great in this movie. Yeah. And then the introduction of Tyree is also good. I was into it when I watched it. Yeah, like again, like I like the whole scene where he's struggling to get the gun and he's trying to do it fast enough before this guy gets away with his horse, and then great introduction to the characters, tells you so much without like dialogue needed. Again, Brian Dennehy's performance is just so like solid, like exactly without knowing exactly who he is or what he's about, exactly how you feel about him. And yet he's not playing it too hard on the nose. And actually I think some of the best stuff that Kevin Kline has in this movie is just his scenes with Cobb, with Brian Dennehy. Like I love the energy that they give each other. And there's great nuance there as we'll see of,
two people that clearly don't know if they really trust each other, but also have definitely been comrades in the past as well and know each other. So
yeah. And you get the sense too, it does set up that Peyton, this guy who has been robbed that you don't really know much about, like, oh, this guy hangs out with shady individuals. He's trying to put it behind him.
Yeah.
But you know his history is he hangs out with shady dealers.
Yeah.
All right. From there, Emmett and Peyton ride towards a town called Turley, where Peyton wants to know if there's any girls there. There's one. When they get there, they are mistaken by this awaiting wagon train. They think they're the two guys that are supposed to escort them across the desert, I guess. They say, that ain't us. They go have a drink where we meet Mal.
Mm-hmm. Danny Glover.
And he's at the bar and he gets refused service by this racist bar owner. Causes a ruckus. Fight breaks out. Who comes to stop it? The Sheriff Langston, played by John Cleese.
Which
again, he is great in this. He is. I think he's fantastic. But it makes me go, okay, what movie are we in? Are we in like a classic Western?
Yeah.
Like a tribute to classic Westerns, or are we in like a spoof parody?
Yeah.
Because maybe just because he's John Cleese, I don't think he's too goofy or anything here.
No. But it's just, it's that question of going like, if this is the Old West, like the trope, I don't know, I don't think that was a trope of like the Brit that is like in the town. Like I know sometimes like the person from outside of town, and maybe that was a thing, but
I think
especially because Cleese doesn't. I kept waiting for him to show up later in the movie and come back around because I was like, but he doesn't. I wasn't sure what to make of that really.
I think there is something to the like, oh, who are the people trying to establish society the most in the West are like the Brits, the English who are most settled in this kind of idea of society and how things ought to be. But he runs, he kind of tells Mal to get out of town. He's not welcome for causing that ruckus. And Mal leaves. And then he asks.
Yeah, a great example of like, because when Cleese comes into the bar, he's the bartender calls Mal the N-word, which Cleese, says, I don't care for that word, basically saying, he finds that unacceptable. But also like a great example of just like the northern or like liberal racist of, he also doesn't really want a black man in his town and he won't advocate for his liberty. And so, I know Hollywood producers think, and I think that they think to this day, that you can establish this guy isn't a villain, but is an antagonist by having him not tolerate racial epithets, but tolerate racists just being around.
Yeah.
That's not the lesson, producers. That's a bad dude who lets that shit fly and has the power to do something about it. And I know product of the time character wise, but I'm talking to the writers here in 1985. No
Lawrence
thanks.
Kasdan.
Yeah, no thanks, Larry and Mark.
And then Sheriff Langston has a little chat with Emmett and Peyton, wanting to know their business in town.
I also just want to say I really liked the bar fight. Every Western needs a great bar fight, and although this one is quick, it might be one of my favorites. I love that it just shows how he's not just tough; he's smart. When Mal grabs the statue, and also when he's about to be kind of accosted. There's a great line where Peyton turns to Emmett and says, a little unfair. And Emmett says, which way you mean? Which I was like, oh, that's cool. But he doesn't know him.
Exactly. That's so these guys are buddies. They know each other, and they do not.
Yeah. So I think that line is cool, but then it actually doesn't really make sense. He's never met Mal before.
Yeah.
How does he know he's going to be able to take these guys on?
Yeah, he just know. I don't know. But so they have that little chat. Sheriff Langston has a chat with Peyton and Emmett, wanting to know their business. Emmett says, we're just passing through. I'm meeting a guy here.
He's a young fella full of juice about my size. wears a fancy 2-gun rig.
And Sheriff Lang, this was really great. Like John Cleese's reaction to this of being like, "Ooh, I know the guy you're talking about. I know where he is. He's in my cell. I'm going to hang him tomorrow." His reaction is beautiful. So then we cut to Emmett and Peyton going to visit this guy in prison. Who is it? It's Jake, played by who?
Kevin
Costner. Gardner Barnes. It's Gardner Barnes.
This is a very Gardner Barnes. This is the young.
I don't think so. There's a different.
Well, there was a part later in the movie I'll get to that I thought was peak Gardner Barnes, but it's the plucky young Costner that we know and love from.
He's the plucky young hotshot. He's playing that archetype. The smooth talking, kissing the girl.
He's not grizzled old Yellowstone yet.
No, not at all. He's got a lot of life to live, and he's gonna live it. So he's
got a lot of life to
live. So he's in jail because he just says, I just kissed a girl. That's all I did.
Yeah, I kissed a girl, and this guy didn't like it, and so then we had some words, so I decided to get out of there. And this fella tries to shoot me in the back.
You had to kill him?
No, I winged him, and he dropped his gun.
You're in here for winging a guy.
No, not exactly. Because, see, there's a friend opened up on me.
Well, what friend's that?
There's the one with the shotgun. The dead one.
This is a good line, too, when John Cleese is like, the dead one. That's what he's in jail for.
There are some great, I'll keep calling them out. There's some great lines in here.
Yeah.
I know we're biased, but when Costner comes on screen, he just instantly becomes my favorite thing so far in this movie.
Yeah, for sure.
He's just so electric.
He is. I think he, in this movie, we'll talk about it, has a great intro and a great first act, and then it kind of just, they don't know what to do with them. But as an introduction, he starts, he's so excited. He's like, I'm going to get out of here. All I did is kiss a girl. And then he just starts climbing on the jail like it's monkey bars.
Just his energy is so, he's hanging off the bars. He's able to, like, again, Costner has this thing where he's able to just be a goof, but not come off as someone that you don't respect. Like, the goofiness is just always endearing, always charming. And it never comes off as like as a lack of intelligence or like this dumb idiot. There's a few times. Well, yeah, but I think generally, I mean, even to me as like as a viewer, it's like he can be a total goof, but I'm always into it.
Yeah, and then so from there, Emmett and Peyton, they're gonna. Emmett says, "I'm gonna bust him out." Peyton's like, "Nah, not for me. I've got."
Yeah, he ain't about that life anymore.
He ain't about that life. He says, it's bad luck watching a hanging. He's like, I'm not. And he brings up luck is a main theme for Peyton in this whole movie. He keeps on talking about, there's about 10 different instances luck is brought up in regards to Peyton.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, Emmett's going to bust him out in the morning. And then Peyton walks into the bar.
A great line as they're walking to the bar. I'll buy you a drink. You ain't got any money. Well, then I guess you'll buy me a drink.
Yeah.
And if there's a mistake in the editing, the scene should have cut right there because that's a great button. There's an extra line after that, but I do love that line.
And he goes in the bar. He sees the guy who's robbed him, who's wearing his hat. To which Peyton says, "You're wearing my hat." And you probably got my gun too. And then they have a shootout and Peyton kills the guy and then ends up in the cell with old Jake.
Great plot point about how to keep them together and still have like totally justified character arcs that he ends up just in the cell. So kind of got to go with the plan to bust him out now.
Like, oh, he's like, I'm not worried. There's lots of witnesses. Like, well, that's what I said too. But
actually, he says, "That's what I said."
That's what I said. That's what I said.
The young baby brother Costner is my new favorite.
Yeah, and also sets up that he's going to pick the lock. Costner's going to pick the lock and then disappear, try to hide in the cell somewhere, so that when the guard comes and goes, "Where is he?" Peyton can say, "He took off. He made his escape." Emmett starts a fire to distract the sheriff. The guard comes. The door to the cell is wide open, and he's hiding behind Peyton. Who Peyton's like, I don't know. he gets his hands handcuffed to the jail cell, but they're not really his hands. They're Kevin Costner's hands.
He's hiding in the trench coat. I didn't see that coming. Did you see it coming? I didn't notice it.
No, but I watched it again.
They got me.
The way he puts the hands up, it clearly is like Costner behind him, not knowing where if you watch it again, you can definitely tell it's not his.
The old hiding in the trench coat.
Yeah. Who hasn't done that move when in jail? And then Payton punches him out with the free hand. They make their escape. This is the one time I'd say he was stupid because he immediately comes out. They're trying to make an escape, and he just starts shooting at the guy. And then Payton's like,
plucky.
And he's like, oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, we're trying to sneak away. I forgot I should fire my gun a million times.
There was a moment when he was in the jail cell cam and he slaps his knee like a bunch of times, and I just thought of you and the way that you love to slap those cam hands together. But so yeah, I think there's a little Cam Laurie in every Jake, whatever his last name is.
I'd love to hear that. I don't know their last name.
I don't think they say it actually.
I didn't make a note.
I don't think they had last names in the Old West. There wasn't time for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to survive the winter.
And then, they flee town, and as they're running away from Sheriff Langston and their posse, who comes to the rescue? It's Mal, the sharpshooter,
the sniper,
providing cover fire. And now the gang has formed. We got our wild bunch.
Yeah, we got our quartet. I imagine the Costner's costume is supposed to play to the idea that he's a young kid. There's a lot of tassels on this costume. I gotta say, his costume is a weak point in this movie for me. Goddamn, it looks like a kid in a dollar store, dress up costume. Especially when all the rest of them look. Yeah, I know, cool. And he's supposed to be young, Well,
Scott Glenn is clearly supposed to be like the Clint Eastwood bad boy, run into town, pale rider, just like.
Yeah. Well, then let me ask you this, just like now at this point, especially because there's a part in the movie later where he has this this enraged squint. Do you think that they wanted Clint Eastwood for this movie? Was this supposed to be a Clint Eastwood movie?
I don't think there's any chance Clint Eastwood would do it. Just because it's not his brand, and he was still definitely doing his brand of Western.
That's fair.
At this time, I don't think so. I think it was just Lawrence Kasdan trying to jam every Western trope, classic Western trope, into a movie, and was like, well, we've got to have the the quiet outsider who comes to town, which kind of doesn't work in an ensemble.
Yeah. Because there's a natural element about that trope. That character
is supposed to be the loner who rides into town.
Yeah. And so at least then you have to play it that it's reluctant that he even gets together versus he's the one who finds Payton. And so, yeah. And I mean, I say that not as no slight against Scott Glenn. I think he owns in this movie. It's just, there's just these moments where you go, there's a lot of and even, I mean, having said that, there's also the things, I think that's what's missing in Payton's character when he's a little too Kevin Kline and you're like, he's not quite young Clint Eastwood, like what maybe they're writing him to be. So maybe it's just that they're writing a lot of Eastwood type things. And I'm reading into that.
I think Payton is supposed to be more in the Henry Fonda, Gary Cooper. Well, Gary Cooper's a little older, but or Jimmy Stewart brand of Western hero, rather than a Clint Eastwood. But yeah, there's a lot of that's the thing with this movie. We're not even into the plot of this movie.
Yeah.
And we're, and there's going to be another road trip we take away from the plot still. So the Wagon Train.
Yeah, so they find this wagon train that's abandoned. It's been robbed.
The one that they were mistaken to be the escorts for.
That's right. And so the people are there, but they find out that they've been robbed, and so our gang, our new quartet of heroes, agree to go after them. Or three of them go after them. They have Jake watch and stay with the wagon train, and Mal, Emmett, and Payton go after them, and they come up with a pretty great plan.
Well, and there's also one other guy. There's the distrustful.
Yeah, the distrustful. I started out and I kind of felt bad that I named him this in my notes because of the fate that befalls him. But I said the husband's a great douche, and it's a needed. The douche it's a necessary role in many movies, and this guy nails it, complete with fumbling up onto his horse the first time. So they go. They end up having Emmett ride in as if he's another bandit who's on the run, and they start shooting down so that he can try and win the trust of the gang, basically which he does. He kind of just talks his way in there. And then when he's in there, he releases the horses to cause like a big diversion and gets the box. The leader of this bandit gang is the fantastic James Gammon, character actor from the 80s. So good in this. You might know him as the manager, the coach for Major League. He is another totally underrated 80s character actor. He's got such a great voice. He's got like that
macho man voice,
Yeah, he's got that macho man, the grizzle.
I think there's only a couple guys up there, and this asshole's one of them.
I couldn't do the grizzle without coughing up a lung. But he's great. Also, just a really well written character. Because I hate even the villains that we meet that are our main villains. It's just it's so much better when a villain is smart and he pretty much figures it out right away. That Scott Glenn has basically been successful, that he's talked his way in here, but he knows that this guy is probably there.
Full of shit.
He's full of shit.
He does that classic thing of he just name drops a bunch of names. And
You're Dawson, ain't you? Tex LaRue. He used to ride with Rye Marsh. You know him. Well, Andy Sims told me there's a hideout near here, so I headed for it. Hope you don't mind.
It's name drops a bunch of names, and he's like, I don't know any of those people.
I don't know who you're talking about. So they get the money back. They escape or kind of scare off the crew, but in the process, and this is where I feel really bad, the douchey husband actually gets shot, and barely
after he asks for all the money and blames them all or accuses them all of trying to steal it.
Yeah. But I will say, he was a little douchey, but I don't know if he was, let's steal this guy's wife the moment he's dead douchey. Because damn Peyton, they literally, I think Jake makes a joke about it,
geez, Peyton, our old man ain't even cold yet.
The guy's body's hardly cold.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's worse, Rosanna Arquette playing the wife, she doesn't seem to care at all either that he's dead.
No, it makes me wonder how together they were.
I don't know. We'll never know now.
I don't know. Yeah.
Also, quick question, just noting some weird details. Were there earrings in the Old West? Because she's wearing earrings.
I don't know.
Is that a thing?
Already? Why not? I don't know.
I mean, she's got modern makeup on, which I already kind of find annoying in period movies, but whatever. It's the 80s. I'll let it go. But I was like, were earrings a thing in the 1800s?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's ask the internet out there. Hey, all you Kevin Costner fans.
Maybe there's an Old West earring Instagram account that can give us some facts on that.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so the gang all arrive. They've arrived in Silverado. Jake and Emmett are going to see his sister, their sister, and brother-in-law and nephew. They're on their way to California. Mal goes to see his dad. His mother wrote him. They've got a ranch out there. But when he gets to the ranch, he sees it all
kind of burned out,
and there's other people's cattle all over it, and he can't find his dad. His dad eventually comes out at night and is like, they burned me to the ground. Like, you own this land? He's like, yeah, well, the McKendricks don't think so. No, the government, I bought it from the government. That don't mean a thing here. Peyton says he's going to follow that new widow, Hannah.
Yeah.
And he does for about one scene.
Yep.
Where she's a homesteader. She's going to work the land.
She wants to grow things. And a man doesn't usually come to a pretty lady to settle down and really want to build something.
Yeah. He says, you're beautiful. And she kind of goes, I've had a lot of men tell me that. She has actually.
Including the man that was murdered 2 days ago.
5 minutes ago. Yeah. But she's got a good line here. It's like, I want to build something, make things grow.
I want to build something, make things grow. takes hard work. A lifetime of it. That's not why a man comes to a pretty woman. After a while, I won't be so pretty. But this land will be.
That's well written. And you know what? It makes me think that there was a whole relationship edited out of this movie.
And let me tell you something, Cam, you'd be right, because most of her scenes are cut from this movie.
This is like the last time she says anything in the whole movie.
Yeah, she shows up right at the end, and you're like, oh, so I didn't know if she died or what happened, but yeah, basically between now and the last scene
at the Homestead Jamboree.
Real quick.
But yeah, it's pretty. There's a few things in this movie that go. This was a 3-hour movie that was edited down to 2:15 because. And
again, you can see why, because there's already a lot of subplots in this movie. Like, I really didn't need this.
And I think it's useful. I can see why it was written because, I mean, Peyton is the only one really with a character arc. He's the only one who is looking for something. It has actual character growth.
I'd say Mal too, but I'd say his is incomplete.
You're right. But he doesn't have any like fundamental character thing he's working out much. A little bit the fact that he's left his family and he's got to come back and like reestablish himself and stand up for his family.
Yeah, we don't really see him change whereas on screen.
Peyton's got this whole thing of being a former outlaw, wanting to find a new life that isn't an outlaw life. Yeah. And so like the first temptation is, I'll settle down and be this hardworking homesteader with this woman who he very quickly goes, nah, that ain't for me. Yeah. And I can see why we see that in the character, but literally he doesn't even say that to her. He just, she has this scene to him where she talks about, wanting to make things grow and start this farm. And then like 5 scenes later in the bar, he's like, yeah, you won't see me around her much. Did she know that?
I'll swipe left on that.
Have you talked to her about this? But so that kind of sets up where what all 4 of the gang are going to be doing this new Silverado.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so again, I'll say there's definitely some things that are kind of fuzzy plot wise and right ways. Well, maybe not fuzzy, but maybe just because there's so much going on. Like when Emmett says when he's at dinner with his sister and her family that he had done 5 years wrongfully in prison or whatever. Like, was I supposed to know that? Did I miss? They said that earlier in the film.
They said he was in prison before.
Oh, okay, so I missed that.
Said, oh yeah. When him and Peyton first have their first meet and have their campfire, Peyton's like, have you wronged anyone lately? Because he's wondering why guys jumped him, and he said not for 5 years, alluding to the fact that I've been in prison for 5 years, so I haven't done anybody wrong for 5 years. Right. And they say, oh, where were you? And he's like, I was in Leavenworth. So yeah. And Peyton says, oh, I've never been there. So we know both of them have been in prison, and Emmett just got out. So we do know that, but yes, we find out they Jake and Emmett are at their sister's, and her sister's husband, played by Earl Hindman. Do you know who Earl Hindman is?
Wilson from Home Improvement.
Home Improvement. Never seen the bottom half of his face, and there he is.
And as someone noticed, of course, then later in this movie when he's gagged, that it's covering up the bottom of his face. So he's got a Wilson moment later in this movie.
But he kind of says, the McKendricks are kind of running amok. They're not going to like all these new homesteaders you brought. This is the classic plot line of a lot of Westerns. It's the plot of Shane. Just a very classic common trope of these cattle rangers who are used to using all of the land for their cattle. And now homesteaders are coming in and setting up property lines, and they can no longer use it all. So these homesteaders kind of try to bully
them out or burn them out.
And he says, you killed the wrong McKendrick. The new one is slipperier.
Mm-hmm. Not to be confused with Slicker, who Slick has just come to town, played by another alumni of The Big Chill, Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Who rolls into this movie.
We'll meet him in a quick second. Yeah. So So we know that the McKendricks are going to want revenge for Emmett killing their old man, basically. And that's also who has killed or is who burned down Mal's ranch.
So, yeah, they get threatened by the McKendricks.
Mal and his dad do.
Mal and his dad are threatened by them, and they do then eventually murder Mal's father. Especially... Oh, go ahead.
This scene, I will say, perfectly shot.
Yeah.
The one-eyed McKendrick, the eye patch McKendrick up on the big rock, the camera looking right up, like that's a classic Western shot.
Yep.
Just down on the poor man who's definitely going to get killed.
Yeah, the poor guy in the creek.
It is like, that's the thing. I don't think they nail every trope, which they're clearly trying to do, but better than any other movie I think I've seen that isn't a classic Western, it looks exactly like it should.
Yeah, it really does. Like from everything from the look of the town to the way that the buildings don't feel fake, but they also have that feeling of, like an old West like
that they're
TV
popped
show
up in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly, that they're just like these like. Yeah, it's just
that looks like a set, but also like an old West thing that's like we just popped up a town in the middle of the desert because we needed to put a town.
It's just
somewhere.
a bunch of like wooden beams, like that. That is what it
like
is.
Everything is on sticks. Like everything is shot, on a tripod, just filling the frame. All the actions within that frame. Very little camera movement. Yeah, it is great, and this scene definitely makes the grade.
Mm-hmm. So Peyton ends up going to this bar where he meets his old pal. Oh, so Stella, yeah, played by Linda Hunt. Takes a shine to her. They get along real great and hit it off as friends right away. And he finds out the owner of the bar is his old pal Cobb. This is the quote unquote legitimate business. And finds out he's not only the owner of the bar, he's also the sheriff of the town. And the old manager of the bar gets gunned down by Cobb. Of course, this old manager is played by Step Brothers' father himself, Richard Jenkins, who had been skimming off the top. And I was talking about all the different like subplots in this movie that I love. I include in that the subplot of I could just watch Brian Dennehy punch guys in the stomach all day.
Yeah,
I could watch that all day. So we learn that he's the sheriff, and this is after he almost gets gunned down by Kelly, the old manager, but then kills Kelly. Then a new gambler, Jeff Goldblum, named Slick, rolls into town. And,
his entrance is fucking perfect.
It's great. He's wearing this big old West fur pimp coat.
Yeah, it is. Like it's like he looks like Kramer when he's got that coat.
Yeah, he looks. That's exactly right. I don't know if that's period accurate or not. Maybe it is. I don't know. I wasn't there. But he rolls into town and he says, what does he say? I'm looking for.
Yeah, I've got it here.
Excuse me, Sheriff. I'm a gambler who'd like to run an honest game here in your town. To whom do I speak about that? Hope it's not this gentleman.
And then he looks down at Kelly, who's just been shot. He's like, hope it's not this gentleman.
Goldblum's being great. So then the McKendricks, we end up at sort of a homesteader party that Jake and Emmett are at. They come in, sort of basically just raid the party right away. They go to burn down the bar, kill the livestock. There's a moment where a guy comes out and because they throw like a torch full of hay to throw it at one of these like huts. And the guy fires a rifle into the air and it shoots off the burning hay from the torch.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we need to create our own Talkin Costner Mythbusters, but I'm like, is that possible? That doesn't seem realistic.
I don't know. I've already told you I don't know how guns work.
Could you shoot burning
hay
off
fire
of I don't know, but
I can shoot fire.
It looks cool. But you know what? I'm down with it. It looks cool. That happens. They don't They don't. Well, actually, they kill that guy. So I think a couple people get killed in the homesteaders party.
But I'm pretty sure, like, these McKendricks are not. They always lose more guys than the people they try to kill. Other than when they kill Mal's dad, they have a really bad return on investment when it comes to staffing. Yeah, Jake and Emmett take out quite a few. Yeah, in also many different scenes of this movie. In this scene, we also have where Emmett beforehand talks to Hannah and is like, I wanted to say goodbye to you because I guess they're going to go to California soon. And she's like, why? We haven't had a relationship all movie. Why? He's like, I don't know. So I guess there's also a thing between Emmett and Hannah, but yeah, which again, then we see like kind of comes around at the end of the movie, and maybe it would have made more. I remember thinking, I'm like, oh, was this a love triangle? And maybe it was, but just those scenes got cut because it makes no sense. Not in that movie. So I'm like, why did you keep these moments in? I don't know what's going on. You could have easily edited out these like lingering looks that they have to each other, but I don't know. I'm not Lawrence Kasdan. I think Lawrence Kasdan was just like didn't have the guts to just cut Rosanna Arquette entirely out of this movie. Yeah, because it could be it because she definitely could be. I feel like you just actually could totally lose her character and it would be fine. Not that she's not great. Yeah, she's fine. But with just how much they clearly edited her down. Yeah. Like the characters and the plots, I think that they're a little overstuffed. I'm pretty sure there are 204 cast members in this movie. And that includes BG, but 204, that's a lot. It's a lot. And yeah, I mean, Lawrence Kasdan, you did it to Kevin Costner. Yeah, exactly. In the big he's willing to cut out our boy. Yeah, you're willing to cut out the greatest actor of his generation. Jeez. But Rosanna Arquette makes it? Get out of here. And again, like I think Rosanna Arquette's character is very interesting and she does a great job, but this movie is just too stuffed with characters and subplots. So like I'm glad, like for instance, if I had to pick someone that I don't want to lose, like I don't want to lose the backstory that we get with Mal and his sister, and I love the relationship between Peyton and Stella. But if there's one that doesn't just really fly, it's just we just don't really. Again, because so much of maybe if that stuff was still there, but so much of it is edited out with her that we're like kind of left with just sort of scraps of what could be a plot. So Jake goes into the saloon and then he starts flirting with Tyree's girl, Phoebe. And great. I love this standoff. Peyton comes to the rescue. He cools down the situation. This is good. There's a great after the bar standoff, just the way that Costner, well, first he says,
all I did was kiss the girl.
Thought you said Turley. Remember how that ended?
What's the matter, Peyton? You afraid I couldn't get those two behind me?
And then he turns to both of them and he points at both and just goes, boom. And it is so good. He's already a master of how to use his energy and playing the opposites and finding the unexpected choices that work so well. Just the way he just so subtly just looks and goes, boom. And this is not a critique of him, but of I think the writing of the character later, because I wanted this to be character development, because this seemed like a turn in his performance where he's tired of people giving him shit. Yeah, of being treated like a little kid. Yeah, where he's like, I could take out these guys, no problem. I didn't do anything wrong. I just talked to the girl. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm getting in trouble. I'm tired of this shit. And it felt like, okay, this character is dropping in from just being the spunky little brother. And then it kind of just reverts back to spunky little brother. It does, because you look at this. And I don't think it's his fault. I think it's direction. I agree. And I it's that moment where you look in this scene and knowing what we know about how adept he is just from the earlier scenes, with the shootouts and stuff. Like if he wanted to, he could be Billy the Kid. He's a good guy and he's loyal to his family, so he's not going to do that. But just like with his skills and his temperament, like he could be Billy the Kid if he wanted to. And I agree. I think that's where I don't think that means like this movie has to take off and all of a sudden be about him. But I agree. Like they have this moment where you go, oh, something really cool is happening here, but then they don't really follow it up at all. He goes back to just being the talented kid brother. Yeah, and if it was a limited series TV drama,
which it obviously doesn't want to be, and that's okay. We would have had time for that.
Yeah, exactly.
We would have time for more of Mal and more of Emmett and Hannah, but we don't have time for it.
Exactly. And the way I think it's actually really cool the way that they interweave the lives of the characters, including like the interweaving the villains. Like Cobb ends up later having these moments with Mal, and obviously he has it with Peyton, and then obviously he's also going after Emmett. And so, yeah, I just feel like if we're looking at an hour-long drama, you'd be able to really like pull these threads out and really explore them, and it would be so interesting the way it's woven together. But there just isn't enough time in this movie to do that.
Yeah, and so Emmett runs into the McKendricks with his old horse that had that mysterious branding, and they're like, "Hey, that's our horse. We can tell from the brand." And he's like, "Oh, okay, I know where this horse came from now. You guys have changed your brand. So those guys who tried to kill me at the beginning of the movie, that was you guys." That prompts McKendrick to go talk to Cobb and be like, "We need to deal with Mal and Jake and Emmett to Cobb. You got to earn your money."
And Peyton, obviously having a relationship, says, that's because then Cobb tries to get Peyton kind of into this. And Peyton says, "Well, no, that's not what I signed up for. That's not my job here." But you can see the tension is mounting, where clearly Cobb is pressuring him more and more.
These guys you came in with, and we see Peyton. This is perfectly where we see Peyton going,
What is it you want from me? Nothing. Do nothing. Don't get between us. I'm not a great believer in doing nothing. We understand each other. Don't worry about me. If you're taking on Emmett, the last place I want to be is between you.
I'm fine with doing nothing. You won't catch me in between you and Emmett. Like, I'm not going to get on the wrong side of Emmett, but I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah.
So he's kind of being a traitor to the gang he rode into town with. We also get, I can't remember if it's where it is in the movie, but we get this long story from Cobb talking about like how funny Peyton is, where he, you never know what he's going to care about. Well, I rode with this guy and we were on the run from local officials, and this dog that was, following us around got caught up in Tyree's horse, and Tyree went flying, and Tyree ended up shooting the dog, and Peyton wouldn't leave it, and he ended up getting arrested all for this dog. Which is a throwback to when we first meet Cobb and Tyree. They both ask Peyton, "Where's the dog?" So we know Peyton went to jail. We know Peyton went to jail because of this dog that he was like, "Why do you care about this dog?" It's a dog that, went under Tyree's horse. You might call it the underdog.
Oh, God.
It might be that heavy-handed of a metaphor.
I think we should wrap it here. Oh boy!
I mean, I didn't read the movie. Did you read the movie? I didn't read the movie.
I'm not Mark or Lawrence. I can't say it. I can't say I did. But
Peyton doesn't care about much, but he wants to stick up for the underdog. He doesn't know where he belongs. He doesn't want to be a man of action.
He's a good man. Yeah, so the deputies end up attacking Emmett. He's out in the desert.
Oh, right.
Real good moment where he's kind of shooting cans, and all of a sudden a guy appears and goes, "You're empty."
Yeah.
Oh, shit. And he goes around back to his horse, and they lasso him, and they
run over him with a horse.
They run over him with a horse. Did they shoot him? Does he get wounded by a bullet?
No, I think he just has a head wound.
He just has a head wound, but he's got a hell of a fever when we see him next. So that's what I was confused about. I was like, why is he so sick?
I don't know.
Not that I think getting dragged by a horse and lassoed a little bit is like a great day, but I don't know. I just thought I missed something there, maybe. So Mal ends up emerging again. He saves Emmett. He kills one of McKendrick's men. He chases the rest off, and then he's got
the great line.
I don't want to kill you, and you don't want to be dead.
I don't want to kill you, and you don't want to die.
Oh, that's great line. Love
Man,
it.
If I were an actor and I saw that on my fucking dailies, I'd be like, shit, yeah.
He ends up riding to town to warn Jake that they're after him. Emmett says, you gotta warn Jake, but ends up being betrayed by Slick. Jeff Goldblum, not a good dude here. Not a good dude.
No.
And he gets arrested by Cobb. Arrested and beat up. And so then Jake, at the same time, because he couldn't warn him, gets attacked in his sister's home.
Also, sorry, Adam. Great line, again, from Brian Dennehy this time when he arrests. Oh, maybe this is later, but I'm going to say it now because I already interrupted you. He says,
and we're going to give you a fair trial, followed by a first-class hanging.
We're going to give you a fair trial, followed by a first-class hanging. Yeah. I love that. That's good.
Yeah. This movie is as good a case as any for defunding the police.
That's right, yeah.
All the way back to the Old West.
Well, that's a common trope in those Old West.
Oh, yeah.
But then it's just, you've got to just reestablish, like, the good sheriff.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the problem,
Yep.
It's not all cops are bad, just the cops that are running this town are bad. Yeah. And if the good cop can just come in and kill the other cops, it'll be fine.
All you need is a good guy with a gun, bad guy with a gun, right? Is that the lesson?
Yeah.
It's
always the lesson.
So actually, also when Costner, when he comes home just before he gets kidnapped and realizes everybody's held hostage, he has this great moment that where he comes home like drunk as a skunk, and he just like that when you walk home and when you come home and you're like, I'm not getting a plate, I'm too drunk, and he just like, you're eating food with your bare hands,
eating a piece of pie like it's a piece of pizza is a great move.
Like cups in his hand and he's just, like putting it up to his face. So as true now as it was in the Old West. Home drunk and just
same as it ever was, baby.
Same as it ever was. So the McKendricks end up burning down their house. Burning down the house. Wow, that's two references right there.
Two.
Don't stop there. So they take Jake and they take Augie, his nephew, the young Augie. They take them both hostage and they burn down his sister's house. I thought they killed Wilson.
JT. Yeah,
but I think that he actually does survive.
He makes it.
Yeah, he does.
I watched it again, and you see he does get shot in like the shoulder away from the torso. So,
so I will say this whole sequence really suffers from a big case of 1980s bad lighting. And I know that it's night in an Old West town, and obviously there aren't actually much lights around, but I just. Yeah, there's so much in the 80s of these scenes that are just like poorly lit. And for the most part, this movie doesn't fall into that. It's mostly taken in daylight. But yeah, so I didn't love that. Mal, who's in jail, gets his sister comes in and is gonna.
She's stolen Slick's knife.
Stole Slick's knife to spring him. Pretty good knife throw from Mal right into the heart of this guy from through his cell. This one guy who comes through the door.
Oh no, I think she stabs.
But later, so she stabs the one guy, and then she gets shot and goes down, and he's able to grab the knife for the next guy coming in, and it's like. It's just like as if it was fired from a harpoon gun, just like funk right into his heart. And maybe he's just really that good. But I thought he was more thinker than a knife thrower.
He does it all.
He's a Renaissance man. So Stella tells Peyton, he's got to stand up against Cobb. Cobb has basically threatened Stella's life if Peyton stands up and crosses over.
I think that, again, this is like the theme of the movie is like, and this is why I say Peyton's the only one with like growth. He's like, I don't know what to do in the world where I fit. And she's like, you've got, the world is what you make it. Some people think that because they're stronger and meaner, they can push you around, but it's only true if you let it. The world is what you make it. And that's why it goes back to like, he's always talking about luck all the time. He's like, I walked until I couldn't walk anymore. Just bad luck, I guess. And he gets $13 from Cobb, and he says that's bad luck. And he hate to see a man swing. That's bad luck. He's constantly talking about luck, and I think it's the idea that Peyton thinks nothing is up to him.
Yeah,
And then so she's like, no,
he his own agency, his own
you can change things if you want. And so the only thing that spurs him to action is standing up for the little guy, the 4'9" Linda Hunt.
That's right.
Not just the underdog, it's also the little guy.
Little guy. And thankfully in this movie, not a little person who's a Chinese man. Because, we're not going to review that movie.
No, we aren't.
So Mal gets sprung from jail by his sister, but as we said, she gets wounded in the process. So Mal takes her to Stella, who tends to her. Unfortunately, Slick catches on to this, and we see Slick basically kind of starting to hold her hostage as she's.
Slick is a dirty rat.
He's a dirty rat. He's a dirty rascal.
Who saw that coming? A guy named Slick.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Goldblum's so likable, especially in his later roles, that like I was like, oh, maybe he's a good guy, maybe he's not a good guy. But then the whole part where he betrays him, then I started to catch on. So Emmett, Mal, and Peyton come together. They attack the McKendrick Ranch in what I thought was the culmination of the movie.
Yeah, so did I.
Ultimate sequence.
But it's pretty great
sequence. Yeah. Great. Like again, classic trope of hunkered down at a saloon or a homestead, or a fort. This is just a really great sequence, where they each kind of have their own, piece of it, which also will follow up in the next sequence as well.
But they also start like the beginning of it, where they start the cattle stampede and ride in with it, is also great to see. This
a great redemption from the Lion King, where a stampede can be used for good and not evil.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you, rehabilitating stampedes.
Yeah, exactly. One funny moment I noticed in this, so Peyton's trying to get Mal's attention when he's on a roof one time, so he shoots near him.
He shoots at him.
Not shoot him, but shoots near him. Peyton turns around, almost guns down. Peyton is this master sniper who's on a hair trigger here.
No, Mal is.
And Peyton just shoots I'll get his attention by firing a bullet right next to him.
Yeah, he won't just react.
Yeah, exactly.
In a split second.
Yeah, lucky Danny Glover didn't blow him away. Yeah.
And then we find out that Jake. So Emmett goes and rescues Augie from inside the house, which is great. And then Augie's like, Jake's dead. He fell off his horse, and Emmett's like, Jake fell off his horse? That don't seem right.
Yep.
And then in the barn, we see him kind of swing down to save Peyton. Jake is it, and he says, I've been playing. He's, where have you been? I've been playing dead. Which this is something got edited out of this movie, because this I was like, that sucks. That's just garbage. And it would have been, I feel like it was simple what was edited out of the movie, just Jake pretending to fall off his horse and fall down the cliff, and then it seemed weak. It was not good.
There's a couple things towards the end here where they start pushing the bounds a little bit.
It's hurry up the movie, okay?
Yeah, I will say I do love the moment when he swings down and he just has this moment where he puts up his arms it's me. I'm still here. I love that. And that for me, that was my peak Gardner Barnes moment.
Yeah. So they ride back into town, I guess, just to go kill Cobb and Tyree and their deputies. Yeah. Cause the deputies are basically in the McKendrick's pockets. Yeah. And also I think
with 60 people. Now there's 4 left.
And McKendrick has also fled back to town.
Yes.
What a forgettable character he is. Sorry, I had a hard time even who is this guy again? We didn't meet him until an hour and a half into this movie.
Yeah, because he's not in that opening scene.
No, he's not there when they kill Mal's dad. Very simple fixes.
And he's clearly supposed to have a little bit of nuance, because you can see he's a slightly better dude than the rest of them. He doesn't let them kill.
But why?
Kid.
Why not just have him be a villain? We already have slightly better, the guy who can kind of weasel around. We've already got Dennehy, who is
and we've got Tyree, who's the seedy young dickhead. And why not? McKendrick's also got this backstory clearly about after his father died, everything changed. Maybe he was a better man, but that doesn't get explored more than a lingering look at a photo later. It's just, again, it's why is, if this was a 10 episode series, awesome. But why is he in this movie? You didn't need him at all.
Yeah. Other than for Emmett and Jake, they wouldn't have they need.
I guess, yeah.
But just introduce him earlier and have him there every time the McKendricks do something shitty.
Have him
just so we know off the top.
Scene and he's one of the guys who gets away. Like, show me that guy.
Yeah.
And then I go, it's the guy from the beginning of the movie. Now I get a resolution. I get that nice dopamine kick when I go, I know who that guy is.
Yeah. So they all ride back into town.
I like the sequence. They each had their own. So like Mal ends up in sort of a close quarter fight with Slick. He takes him out with the knife that his sister stole earlier. That was a great callback. You've got Jake being a clever ambush when he drops down. He drops Tyree.
And he kills Tyree. Yeah,
exactly. You got Scott Glenn a great horse chase.
That is good.
And although the horse kick move that he does where he goes up and he just nails him right in the temple. Okay, maybe that's a stretch, but you know what? It was creative and I like it. He goes up a set of stairs and then flies out and his horse kicks the McKendrick in the head and takes him out. It was great. Very creative. And that's one thing I'll give Kasdan. So many of these sequences and the action sequences are so creative. And again, you can see like, he's the writer of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you can see a lot of that fun, creative playfulness in the action, which I think is very missing in most movies nowadays. And I like the MCU and I like Avengers, but so many action sequences now are just like gun or punch fests, and so everything having its own nuance and being clever is just so much more fun to watch.
Yeah, and one of those is at the McKendrick Ranch when Costner gets on his horse and he does like a drive-by shooting of the house onto the porch, onto the veranda, and just like shoot. Like I'm like, that's awesome. Like just a horse drive-by. Love it.
And of course, the last one being there's a beautiful classic standoff between Payton and Cobb.
Yeah, that's great. Where we've got Payton in front of the white church. He's the good guy, and then you've got Cobb just out in front of all like the desolate desert. And here the last throwback to Luck, where Cobb says to Payton, "What a waste! This could have been such a sweet deal for us."
What a waste! This could have been such a sweet deal for us.
Yeah. Bad luck.
And he says, "Yeah, bad luck."
Bad luck. Yeah.
And that's pretty much a movie. After that, everybody lives happily ever after.
Yeah.
Ray and Mal go back to the ranch to salvage their family ranch. Jake and Emmett ride on to California, and Payton's going to stay on as sheriff. He's got a new deal.
The badge reveal is pretty telegraphed, but it was at least good resolution to his character arc.
And that's Silverado.
And that is Silverado. Cleese never came back. And I will say that I was kind of waiting for it, never did. And I love that standoff at the end. Just on maybe I'm thinking too deep into this. Like, at this point, like, if Payton loses that standoff, everyone else in his crew is still alive, and everyone else in Cobb's crew is dead. So, like, Jake, Emmett, and Mal are just going to gun Cobb down hard.
For sure. It's just no longer a hero's tale, right? Like, that's it. It's just like that slice
of version.
How it
worked out. I just,
just like, I guess we got to go gun him down, and we're going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Overall thoughts on this movie. I liked it. I liked it. I wouldn't say it was the hidden gem that Fandango was, but for a movie I'd never seen and didn't really know anything about, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, as like, I'm a big fan of the Western genre, and I've always wondered because it's gone through so many versions, the Western genre, and it's like, can we go back to a class? Can you make a classic Western now? And I think this is exactly what Silverado was trying to be, especially because, the 70s had kind of what was kind of considered like, well, first there was the spaghetti Westerns that just subverted all of those takes about the good sheriff and just had everybody be a self-interested piece of shit.
Yep.
And then you had what was kind of like the anti-Western, which was like the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, and then like Heaven's Gate, which just killed the genre. I don't know if you've ever seen Heaven's Gate.
I have not.
1980. But it's the Michael Cimino, the director of Deer Hunter, his follow-up movie was this like epic 4-hour Western that just went totally over budget, totally just killed the genre dead. And it's like, it's long, meandering. It's good. Like, it's worth a watch, but it is just basically the death of the genre. And you can definitely feel Lawrence Kasdan, especially coming off of like Raiders of the Lost Ark, be like, can we just make adventure movies again?
Yes. Yeah.
And I appreciate this movie as a fun adventure movie, but as a classic Western, even though it looks right, it doesn't, there's nothing that it speaks to in its time. Whereas the Western, even classic Westerns, were very much about America and their myths and their stories at that time. Like post-war, like what does a violent man do in society when he comes back? You know what I mean? Like that's the central theme of most Westerns.
Yeah. And I think Westerns are also just, they're, to a fault, they're tight on plot. And that is just something that this movie lacks. I know part of it is like, I like that they're, like I said, I think all of these subplots are super interesting. I think they're all good. But I wouldn't call this movie tight, because there's just, and not just because in editing, some things get dropped and there's characters that appear and don't really go anywhere, but just that there's things that aren't necessary. And there's like, again, I love the attack on the ranch. Pardon me. Ooh. Pardon me. Okay, wait. I think I'm ready. I love the attack on the ranch, and I also love the scene that follows it. But I just didn't need both of them. Like, you think about that scene where then they cut back to the town, and I know they probably wanted to have the trope of in the town, but you could have just had Cobb and Tyree roll up to the ranch and have it take place there. And even if it was the same length, it wouldn't feel like, because it just feels like a restart. Then when they go back to the town, then when they come from here, and then.
And I think that is fundamentally, it's because it is trying to do two Western trope bad guys at the same time. And most in a classic Western, it'd be, there is either the sheriff who's abusing his power, or there's this evil capitalist cattle ranger who's attacked. There isn't both of those villains. You know what I mean? It's trying to have two villains that doesn't, and I think it does that because it's an ensemble drama, or ensemble piece at least.
Yep.
But even the beginning, it takes how long to get to the town of Silverado? I don't need to figure out how they all meet, because that story-wise isn't that interesting.
Yeah.
But if it was a mini series, I'd be like, okay, give me how these guys meet. Give me their backstory, but I otherwise I don't care. Yeah,
as fun as the opening is, like, I don't even need that scene. You can give me some exposition. Like, it can just be Emmett finding Peyton, as he rides through the desert, and because we find out many times later that he was gunned down. So there's just a lot of scenes that you go, there's just some repetition here that isn't necessary, and things that could have been tightened up. And I mean, it's only a 2-hour, 12-minute movie, so it's not like it's crazy long. Yeah, and it is filled with action, and like, that's all great. It is just, I think, clearly coming off of the success of Indiana Jones. It's like, can we do this? We've done this with like kind of the pulp adventure novel type genre. Can we do it with the Western? And I heard, I don't know, I read on the Wikipedia page that there was maybe a sequel alluded to at the end that was going to be Jake and Emmett's, adventures to California. Well, and that's what I kind of thought with that last moment too, even though, riding off is another trope in Western, but I actually did kind of get that vibe where I thought, I wonder, especially because all our main characters survive, I thought, maybe they're trying to set up a sequel. Maybe it could have been a franchise, but this whole cast is still alive, so it still could be.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Let's do Silverado,
they're all still working, so hey. Yeah. We could be maybe we should write it.
So best review, worst review. I'm gonna, again, for you listeners at home, this is where we get a temperature of how the movie was received in its time. Best review I could find from our boy Roger Ebert, the Chicago Sun-Times. He gave this is the Metacritic score. So he gave it 3.5 stars out of 4. They rated it an 88 He says, Silverado is a Western like the classics. I mean the comparison to be praised. This movie is more sophisticated and complicated than the Westerns of my childhood, and it is certainly better looking and better acted. And he says, Silverado is the work of Lawrence Kasdan, the man who wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it has the same reckless brilliance about it.
I like that line.
Yeah. I don't think it's better looking or better acted, even though I don't think it's poorly acted, and I do think it looks great.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I don't agree with Raj here.
I don't disagree with that it is, like you said, well acted and well shot, but I think the test of time, I think, stands for itself between those two. And
then the worst review I could find, I found one from Jay Scott at the Globe and Mail, but he really ripped it apart to a point where I was like, and one of the things he ripped apart was the score, and I was like, up. And then I looked at this guy's other
this
movies.
This is supposed to be worst review. This is exactly what you're supposed to grab for this.
That's true.
Don't coddle us here.
All right.
Tell us what he really thinks.
All right. This is what Jay Scott at the Globe and Mail said.
I don't have to agree with him.
The manipulative Star Wars style score.
Oh, cut this off. I don't want to hear this.
The manipulative Star Wars style score is the only novelty on tap in Silverado, which has a plot too drearily complicated and arid to summarize, and an attitude almost unbearable in its dryly smirky assurance that it knows what you want from a Western. Which is to say, action that never quits, emotion that's never felt, characters that are never real, and situations that are never sensible.
Characters that are never real? I don't even know what that means.
I think he's just saying the characters aren't real, that these aren't well-drawn characters.
This isn't a documentary?
This isn't a documentary.
Is this a work of fiction?
This is a work of fiction.
This is Hollywood.
Yeah. So he didn't like it.
He did not like it.
I'm not there was a happy medium from Dave Kerr at the Chicago Reader that I thought was a little bit more what I agreed with, where he said
best review, worst review, not
middling review. Yeah, you're right. Fuck that. Fuck Dave Kerr.
You're really gonna say.
I don't give a shit.
Who do you think the MVP of this movie is?
Brian Dennehy with a bullet.
I mean, that's it. It's Brian Dennehy. I mean, like I said, I think I just obviously love Costner in this movie. Scott Glenn is fantastic. Everyone's acting is great. Even the parts where I go, maybe Kevin Kline is maybe a little miscast here. I still really, really like him, and he has a beautiful performance. But my God, is Brian Dennehy good in this movie? This movie is worth watching for Brian Dennehy alone in this masterclass of acting.
Brian Dennehy is I know he's a well-known and well-respected actor, but he's not well-known and respected enough. That guy is so good.
Yeah, and this also just shows you why he kind of ended up sort of being character actor Brian Dennehy, but you look at this and you're like, why wasn't this guy just AAA list? Because he can do, again, just the way he plays so many shades and colors and in this movie, he's a villain right from the start, but he's just got so much nuance to this performance and the relationships and again, a great masterclass in scene work is just him telling that story to Stella in the bar, and even just the way when Peyton walks in and he kind of notices him and just looks over his shoulder, but doesn't break stride in the story while still acknowledging that now he knows he's also repeating it for Peyton's benefit. He just passed away, I think this past year, right? Man, what a great actor he was.
Great actor. Beyond a doubt. In the power rankings, I want to know, where do you put this?
Yeah.
So I've had a revelation about how, because we've talked how.
Give it to me. Feed me.
Yeah. I've been visited by ghosts, and they've told me how we should be ranking these. And this is an offering to you. We didn't discuss this beforehand, like we should have on the pod.
This is good. People are getting the real unvarnished behind the scenes here.
So I think, not that I ever actually want to score them, but I think there's two metrics by which we should be ranking these power metrics.
Okay.
How good is the movie?
Right.
Just the movie on its own, okay. And then how good is Costner in the movie?
Yeah.
And those two scores add together. And you know what?
An aggregate.
I think this movie is maybe a little bit better. Maybe.
Than Fandango.
But I'm not sold on that.
Yeah. My instinct was just to actually say it's close, but it's not quite. And again, maybe this could be my bias. Like, I like a good tight plot, and I think that Fandango has that more than this. I think there's a lot of things that this movie has that Fandango doesn't. Like, the ensemble cast is way stronger. The action is brilliant. Like I said, I love the lines. I love those one-liners that Kasdan has. But it's like you said, it's a little all over the place at times, and so I have to consider that when it comes to the execution, and a lot of that falls to the direction. Which if
I were just to put on a movie where it's like, you'll enjoy this, I feel like I'd be like, Silverado, throw it on for anybody. It's a good.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. You're not wrong there. I think that would outweigh Fandango in that respect.
On the other metric, not that he's bad at all in this movie, but Costner is so good and so in his element and so impressive in Fandango that I think I gotta slide this one at number 2.
Yeah, like Fandango hangs on his performance, and this movie doesn't. Yeah, I think I agree. I think that Fandango still comes in at number 1 for me. Not just because of the nature that he has a more central role. Not just that
he's just very. There isn't a shred of scene acting in that. He's just so in the zone in that. And there are moments in this movie where I feel like he's playing at something a little bit, even though it's fun and I'm with him. I can see a little bit of the. I'm going to try and give as much as I can.
Yeah, I also I like, I want to see character arcs. And like we said, that doesn't really happen for a lot of the characters in this movie, but it sure does in Fandango. Like pretty much every one of them has a complete character arc. And for me, that's a huge metric for what makes a good movie. So I agree. I think Fandango is staying at number 1 this week, and Silverado is a close second. It's coming in ahead of Testament and the others, but I think it gets a silver medal so far.
Yeah, I like that. All right, thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah,
we are Talkin Costner. Next month,
what's up next?
We've got American Flyers. American Flyers, cycling movie. Also 1985, very big year for Kevin Costner. The first sports movie of many.
Yeah, so we'll be able to get into the sports movie rankings finally.
Yeah,
we've
exactly.
entered the Western, but we don't have anything to compare to. But we've got a lot of Costner sports movies to come.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Thanks everyone for listening. Follow us again on Twitter and on Instagram at Talkin Costner. We love your feedback.
Yeah, we got more content because it don't stop there.
It don't stop there. Have a great one, everyone.
See you next time.
The board on draft day, talking swing vote. Wyatt Earp and JFK.